I'll always miss Birdy. He was such a guy. He was such a kidder and so fun to have around. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I grew up in the Columbia Basin, and most summers and after school afternoons, my younger brother, just slightly younger brother, and I would head out. We'd grab our shared bicycle and we'd travel the countryside, the farm roads, and especially the big, long canal lateral that ran all the way through the Columbia Basin. We loved going out on that bike and investigating and checking on the ducks. Have they hatched? They've hatched. Look at the little ducklings. Look at the fish in the pond, and oh, those little pollywogs. Pollywogs, we love to try and catch them. And usually Birdy came along with us. He'd like to sniff and snort and figure out what was going on around the countryside too. You see, Birdy was my Hampshire hog, and he liked to go walking with us. I love Birdy. And thinking back on those long summer days ago, and especially that particular day, I just wonder if it could have turned out differently somehow for Birdy and for all of us. But on this particular day, we're traveling along on the bicycle, and I'm riding on the front handlebars as my brother's pedaling along behind. We're doing really great until the flip-flop, my flip-flop, got caught in the front spokes of that bicycle. And just like that, it all turned on a dime. It all went south. My brother struggled as he could to try and get the bike back on the path and stay on that canal bank. But it wasn't to be. And to our horror, screams of terror fled out of our mouths as we rushed headlong into that canal. That deep, murky, fast-flowing canal that Mom had always said, stay away from the canal and be back by dinner. Didn't happen that day. Now here we were in the canal. My little brother didn't know how to swim. So I'm holding on to my brother as best I can and trying to get us to shore. And I'm also thinking, that's the only bike we have. I can't lose that bike, but I can't lose my brother either. And I'm trying to get us to the short side of that canal. And it's a deep, fast canal. And some of you probably know that living in the countryside, how big canals can be, especially when you're only 8 and 10 years old. Well, as we kept bobbing to the surface and trying to figure out what was going to happen, I kept trying to calm my brother down and figure out a plan. But I didn't have a plan because this really had never happened before. Then, to my watery eyes, did I see a miracle. It was Birdy flying over the top of that canal. Who knew pigs could jump? I didn't know that. Birdy jumped into the canal, and he paddled his little pig legs as fast as he could, fighting that current, trying to get over to us. And finally Birdy made it. He got a hold of my brother with his little pig snout, and then he fought his way back to the other side of the canal, getting him over to the shore side, and finally got my brother, drug him up onto the bank of the canal. They collapsed there. And then Birdy saw I was still in the water. Birdy jumped back in, and he pedaled with his little pig legs as fast as he could. Pedaled, pedaled, pedaled. But I had other plans. I wanted to get the bike. So as I was going for the bike, Birdy was pulling on my shirt. And I was pulling back. And Birdy's pulling on my shirt. He would drag me as far as he could to the shore, but I'd jump back in because I wanted to get that bicycle. It's the only bike we had, and I knew my dad would not buy us another bicycle. We'd have to piece one together out of parts. Finally, Birdy became exhausted. I got the bike, I drug it to shore, but poor Birdy, he was exhausted now. And the tide of that canal flowing so fast, and Birdy's fatigue took its toll. And much to my horror, I saw my beloved Birdy going over the canal drop and on down the long, long lateral. That lateral went another 3 miles. We rushed home to get my dad, and we jumped in the pickup, and we drove down to the far end of that lateral, which washed out at old, mean Farmer Brown's place. And there was Birdy laying in the mud where it washed out. and there was Farmer Brown with his shotgun. And we said, "Oh, Farmer Brown, please, can we have our Birdy back?" And he said, "No, that's my pig now. I'm keeping Birdy." And no amount of pleading and begging and crying would mean old Farmer Brown give us Birdy back. And in fact, to this day, Mr. Brown is traveling the world with his circus of swimming, jumping pigs, much to our dismay. Mr. Toastmaster.